Hello, I'm Calvin Morris and I'm here back once again to talk to you about Red Dwarf Samsara. Now I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. I'm going to try my best to keep it as spoiler free as possible because I want people to watch it and be entertained by it and make their own minds up. I'm going to say right off the bat though, whilst trying to keep it as spoiler free, I'm still going to try to talk about the episode. So anyway, let's get into talking about Samsara. This feels much more like classic Red Dwarf. Episodes like Marooned, that sort of vibe, you know. It felt much smaller, felt much more studio bound. It was more reliant on the main cast, given that there was pretty much 3 other characters in the entire episode. It really relied heavily on the writing for the main cast and the back and forth. And I think it done a better job in this episode than what it did in the first one. Again, the back and forth, the put downs, the scene setups, there's back and forth between Lister and Rimmer that I felt worked a little bit better. I was genuinely laughing at some of the scenes. Now, the story overall is pretty much that they come across a wrecked ship. Okay, there's nothing. This is not really a spoiler. This is in sort of the episode guide, but they come across a wrecked ship called the Samsara, and when investigating, they sort of become trapped on board the ship, and it's sort of what I don't want to explain too much because the end of the episode is kind of the giveaway, and the episode does jump in time as well. It jumps between sort of present day Red Dwarf and 3 million years in the past. And they didn't do anything unnecessarily overly clever with these back and forths. You know, it was done in pans and wipes, and I thought it was it was in of itself, its simplicity and lack of sophistication made it work for the episode. I thought it was cleverly handled, but not too clever, if you know what I mean. They weren't trying anything wanky with the cameras or anything like that. They were just keeping it simple and blending between the two, which I liked. I thought it worked well. The story as well. It's more about the guest characters again, about how the dwarfs end up in this situation. But the fact that they are, and it's difficult for me to talk about the story without giving anything away. But the fact is that once you've watched this episode, I got a feeling that if you watch it again, you're gonna get more of the jokes, because I think this is more of an episode with legs. I think you're gonna have to repeat watch it because you're gonna see some of the jokes coming a mile off, and it's gonna make a lot more sense to see it that way. I think it's a cleverly worked out little bit of scripting. Now, if I had to say what a big problem with this episode is that I think this episode ends too early. I think the crux of the story here, of where a lot of the comedy might have lay, is after the credits, because them escaping the SS Samsara, I felt, was probably going to lead to more scenes of more awkward delight and genuinely funny gags that I just felt the episode ended too soon. You know, I think that they could have shuffled this episode a little bit, taken some of the stuff that was at the start and just pushed it past the start credits, and just picked it up sort of a little bit further in. It's still enjoyable, still a good episode, and it does feel a lot more like classic Red Dwarf now. This episode does make it feel like they're not trying anything. They're not trying any big location shots or anything like that. The visual effect shots in this I felt were an improvement on the last one as well. Some really nice looking stuff. The design for the SS Samsara, I really liked it. I really thought that was a really sort of classic sci-fi looking ship. The interior sets were what you would expect from a sci-fi sitcom. So I thought it was all good, and the cast as well seemed to be a bit more into their rhythm as well. They seemed to be a bit more, you know, I don't know which order these episodes were filmed in, but this just felt like they were much more into their rhythm, and they were picking up on beats off each other, and I just felt that it was really, for me personally, again, I would put this into the same sort of category as things like Marooned, and episodes like that. You know, it just felt much more Red Dwarf. Not that last week's wasn't really good and it wasn't enjoyable. I just felt that I personally was taking more pleasure out of watching this episode. It just felt more Red Dwarf because it was probably less broad and more concentrated. So, but yeah, had they made this episode a little bit longer, and I would like to see Red Dwarf, you know, sort of maybe stretch to the 35-minute mark as well. And you know, if you've got the story there for it, I think why not? You know, maybe not be able to put it out on TV like that, but maybe for Blu-ray or DVD. So I really enjoyed this episode. I can't wait for other people to see it so that they can they can take as much pleasure out of this story as I have. But yeah, I just genuinely thought that it was a very, very good episode of Red Dwarf. Anyway, that's what I thought of this episode of Samsara. Of Red Dwarf, I mean. I'm just used to saying Samsara, I can't get my... So, anyway, please feel free to like, comment and share this video. Subscribe to the channel or go over and join me on Google+. But until next time, I'll see you later, guys.